This is the Jump Around with Jim Rutledge and Pablo Iglesias, streaming live on the ESPN Madison YouTube channel.
And welcome into the Jump Around. Maybe I'll keep on calling it 3.0. It could be 7.0 by this time, Pablo Iglesias. I'm Jim Rutledge. We're in the Everlight Solar Studio, rather Yauk behind the glass. And we got a lot to get into today. We're very excited. And we are confirming how to say his name, but I believe it is Marc VandeWettering joining the show, Chief of Staff for men's basketball. We are kicking something off this month. It is Pride Month, and it is also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And Marc, put an article out on uwbadgers.com, Living My Truth, where he obviously was already out to his family, but then, basically shared his story about working as an openly gay man in college basketball and with the Wisconsin Badgers. We're going to have him on to talk about that.
Beautiful words. Beautiful words.
And the work he does with Badger basketball is he is the chief of staff for men's basketball. And I believe the chief of staff prior to him was former ESPN Madison intern Kat Voster's Kat Wajado. As her husband was also an ESPN Madison intern. They did not meet here, for the record, I don't believe. I think they met working for the Badger basketball program. But we are thrilled to be joined by Marc a little bit later in the show. So we'll circle back around for him, but we do have some exciting guests lined up all month for Men's Mental Health Month and Pride Month here on the Jump Around. But let's get into the news and notes of the last week. And Luke Fickell having a good week as far as recruiting. Landed 3-star tight ends Jack Severs and Jack Janda, 3-star defensive end Arthur Smith, and Jadu Ba. That's just my attempt at it.
We're just going to give it a shot.
Yeah, and 3-star linebacker Ben Wenzel, in-state kid from Appleton North. They did lose 3-star defensive end Carmelo Reed. He flipped to Ole Miss after an official visit. So the Badgers have 11 commits in the class of 2026. Ranked 27th nationally, according to 24/7. And Pablo, I don't want to get into that side of it because it's so far out, and the Badgers are lower right now. And honestly, 27th used to be the sweet spot for the Badgers, but they're lower because they don't have a lot of commits in the books right now. But what I want to get to is that Lake Mills head coach, Huber is his last name, and he was upset on social media, and I get maybe where he's coming from. I'll give you the tweet here in a second here. So Tyler Huber said, at Badger football, when you're state of Wisconsin recruiting, you're not. We have had Big Ten teams come recruit our hallways the past 3 years with Badgers being 20 minutes away, not being one of them. Be better. Now, Riley, you said you pulled up a tweet from Lake Mills, and you did see some teams that maybe that Lake Mills had promoted, had visited the football program?
Yeah, if you take a look at the screen right now, you can see the Lake Mills football account, the official account. Thank you for recruiting our athletes. The only Division I schools you see on there are Minnesota, Iowa State, Wisconsin, and Wyoming, and Northwestern. So you have 5 Division I schools, and Wisconsin's listed, which is very interesting.
Well, and setting that aside, Pablo, I understand that Coach Huber might be upset that his players, and he's going to ride or die for his players. But I immediately thought of Rick Pitino in basketball, and I think we need to think about this for football. And unless, and I don't want to make it about these kids at Lake Mills. I don't know who they are, and I don't know the recruiting side of it. But based on the programs here, they're not 5-star blue chip athletes. Unless, and Wisconsin hasn't nailed down all of them, so I'm not giving Luke Fickell a pass on this. I want to talk bigger picture. But unless it is a freshman from high school that can come in and play immediately, like a 4 or 5-star guy, that's kind of how I understand the star rating works. Like Chris Borland came in and he played immediately as a 3-star guy back in the day. But in general, the stars are more of like how quickly, how like physically ready, how mentally ready are you to play? Like, can you just hop in? So unless it's a 4 or 5-star guy, I don't see why Luke Fickell or major college programs are in the business of recruiting them, because I'm going to develop you so you can transfer somewhere else because you were upset. Like, there's no, and I'm not talking about these kids specifically, but there's not a lot of gain to be made if you are recruiting, we'll just be generous, 3-star high school athletes who might develop into players. But most likely if they develop, they're probably at a few different schools. So this is what I want to get to, Pablo. Rick Pitino said that for basketball, he said, we don't recruit any high school players, even 5-star guys. And basically his expectations are like, we got to win now. I got to win every year. A high school kid, most likely, even in college basketball, not going to help me. And if I develop him, and you could even look at this with Daniel Freitag with the Badger basketball team, that he came here and he might go somewhere else to be great. It didn't do Badger basketball a lot of good. I'm not mad at that kid for it. I'm not mad at Badger basketball for it, but that's just one example. And so we did ask a poll question here with the transfer portal, and this is where you can hop in here, Pablo. With the transfer portal rising, is high school recruiting becoming less central for college football programs? Right now, 85% of you say yes.
Yeah, and well, one, we've had resounding backup for Luke Fickell and how he's developed recruits. Chris Ballard is a huge fan of him. Also, too, we've just heard other people too talk about how Luke Fickell is a very good developer of recruiting. It is about what you do before and how you get there, but also how are you going to develop moving forward. Luke Fickell was pretty candid about it too in spring football, saying that unless you are a guy right off the bat and you're coming in, as you mentioned, I think the thing is too, one, Jeremiah Smith out of Ohio State, he was a baller regardless, but that was also part of why he was so electric and so exciting and why people were talking about him, because what was he, a 17-year-old, 18-year-old guy right off the bat making an immediate impact on a soon-to-be at now a national championship football team looking at Ohio State. So again, it's like, unless you are the guy coming out of the program from your high school and you're coming into this and you're polished and ready to go, no offense to guys that are coming into college football, but it's just a different game today.
Yep.
Again, yeah, the transfer portal's rising. You got to figure out exactly how to build your roster around that too. So there's a lot of different things moving. But Luke Fickell had said it, again, during spring ball, unless you're you got to mature fast. You have to mature fast in order to see the field fast.
Yep.
And I think that's the situation today. It's not a knock on these players, but again, hey, you work hard, you get to this spot, but that doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to play right off the bat. I mean, it's like, I think about what Charles Barkley had said, like in a total different sense of, hey, like guys that are really excited that they were the player of the year in their state. Well, great. There's 50 other guys too 50 other players that were players of the player of the year based off of like their state. So that pool just gets even bigger and bigger in terms of competition. So not to get too far off of that, but it's just like, it's, Badger fans too. Yeah. You want Wisconsin guys, you want Wisconsin players to be recruited, but you also need to figure out too, like, one, what's going to work for you. Yeah, every system's going to be different. There's not one way to do it.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a system thing. I don't think it's a talent. It's just a matter of like, if you're not coming here to help me immediately, and obviously you do need to fill your roster. And again, I'm not making these about the specific players of Lake Mills. You do need players to fill your roster, but tell me why it is advantageous for Luke Fickell to recruit a guy who might be a 3-star player, a fringe 3-star guy who in 2 years might be great, but in 2 years might also decide I need to go somewhere else. And you have funds and you have coaching availability that is then stretched to then keep this player, as opposed to finding someone else who's a fully cooked product. I love when players can make their way back to the state, but I know that a lot of former Badgers, and I think most of them are kind of over this, but a lot of former Badgers are like, we're a recruit and develop program. Then we suck. Like, that's honestly, like, that's it. Like, that's not what college football is anymore. And Riley, I want you to hop in on this as well. But if we are recruit and develop, we stink. Because that's not what Luke Fickell was brought in here to do. Why'd we fire Paul Christ if we wanted to recruit and develop? And so you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want a guy like Luke Fickell, or you want someone in here who's better than Luke Fickell, you think Jim Leonard is going to, again, going back to him or Paul Christ, they would recruit and develop, and then they would fail because that's not how it works anymore. No program at the upper echelon, right? We all wanted to lift Wisconsin. That's why Luke Fickell was hired. You were trying to lift up. You're trying to level up. Leveling up meant we cannot go with the old ways of recruit and develop. And yes, there could be some hardship. There's been some ugly wins. And I'll tell you this right now. Go look, the days of guaranteed 10 wins is gone. The Big Ten is exponentially harder than it was when Barry Alvarez was here or when Brett Bielema was here. Like, Brett Bielema, when he was coaching here, had 6-7 wins, just roll out the helmet. There was 2 or 3 games that mattered every year when Brett Bielema was the coach. And to his credit, the Badgers won more of those than they lost. But that's how you could roll out 10 wins every year. And so that's not the case anymore. Now the Big Ten is impossible. Plus the rest of the non-conference schedule. I love the Russell Wilson Badger team. What's their record with this schedule? 8 wins, 9? Like, I mean, if we're really applying it to it, like, for me, the new standard for Badger football is, I would say, let's always try to get 8 wins on average over a 5-year span, and then have that year or 2 where you can make that incredible, like, make the college football playoff. I think that's the new standard. But, Riley, to the recruiting side of things, I mean, obviously I think you're a big recruiting guy and you love to see the Wisconsin kids recruited, but I think it's fair to say that unless you're blue chip or fringe blue chip, Wisconsin's probably not where you should be going, because I don't think Wisconsin has much interest in you.
Yeah, and I think that's the main issue here that this Lake Mills coach is bringing up. Like, Wisconsin coaches, Wisconsin fans really want Wisconsin to recruit Wisconsin kids. They want those Melvin Gordon stories. They want the Hunter Wohler stories, and that's fine. That's awesome. But if the best player in the state of Wisconsin is Ben Wenzel from Appleton North, a 3-star linebacker, like, I'm super excited for the Badgers to go get him. But then who else? Like, if everyone else is worse than him,
to your point,
I'm not worried about Wisconsin.
Melvin Gordon wasn't a secret.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So he
was going to go to Iowa.
Yeah,
he had said that. He committed to Iowa originally.
Yeah. To your point, though, like, Melvin's not sneaking through the cracks, I think, right now. That's not who's sneaking through. Now, you can get on the Badgers for not getting and landing the blue chip guys. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
like, we're not talking about Trey Poteet going to Tennessee here.
And we should have realized it in the moment, the Jared Abadarises of the world. Like, that is going to be fewer and farther between. Because Jared Abadaris, I'm just using his name. I don't know his personality. I would imagine he might be a guy that stuck it out as a Wisconsin kid. But he's someone that might sit here and be like, I got to sit behind Nick Toon, and I got to sit behind, I don't know who else was here, but, like, I got to sit behind these guys. And then all of a sudden, Wyoming wants to pay me $10,000 a year, plus I can go start right away. Well, I'll just go there.
Yeah. And would you rather have Wisconsin recruit a 1 or 2-star tight end from in-state, or one of the tight ends, I believe it was Jack Jandu, who they went out and got, was being recruited by Oregon, recruited by Michigan, recruited by Illinois, Indiana? Or would you rather have him snag these kind of guys? I don't care if he's from Detroit. I care if he's wearing the Motion W.
Right.
And that's what matters.
And to that point, well, one, they do have, Rob Booker, maybe he'll blow up. He's a Wanakee kid. But to that point, Chris Orr has been very adamant, and he almost seemed borderline offended by the idea that, like, Wisconsin kids are the only ones that can care about Wisconsin, like, deeply. And he said that he bleeds Cardinal and White. And he is, when he talks about it, now linebackers coach with Kansas City, but he was on ESPN Madison for a while, and he would come across as borderline defended when people would be like, you got to get those Wisconsin kids because they truly love Wisconsin. Nobody loved Wisconsin and the Badgers more than Chris Orr. And then we talked with Rob Wheelwright last week, Riley, and he had his Badger jacket. You don't have to be from Wisconsin to be loyal or thrilled or want to bleed Badger blue. Badger blue. Badger Cardinal and White.
Cardinal and White.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, guys. It's like, yes, the Big Ten is tougher. You want to compete. Yeah, win the Big Ten, but also the big goal is to win a national championship. You know, just cause it's not just going to be Wisconsin. Yeah, if you want Wisconsin to be big on the national stage, you want them to be in the national talk, then you got to go national. Heck, even probably international too, potentially. But that's a different side. I mean, I don't know how many college.
That's what basketball is doing. You're right.
Yeah, basketball's doing it too. So it's even just beyond that with college athletics. Look, you gotta go bigger picture. As much as, again, it's not saying that Luke Fickell from the football side that they're ignoring Wisconsin, but like what Riley said too. Hey, you know what? If the best guy right now under the recruiting team in Luke Fickell's eyes right now is a 3-star out of Appleton, that's dope. Love that. But let's not just stick with the 1-star, 2-star tight end. You know what? Even though it didn't work in the spring and he decided to move on, I love the fact that they still went after Tanner Koziel, the top tight end in the transfer portal. Again, it is what it is that it didn't work, but the fact that they got the top tight end target at least and saw whether or not it was going to work, that's the thing that you want to go for. You want to go for the top targets across the board.
What do you want Wisconsin to be? Because if you want Wisconsin to be Ohio State, and you want Wisconsin to be Penn State, and you want Wisconsin to be Michigan, a team that is teams that are playing in the college football championship, college football playoffs, you know what they're not crying about? The Michigan Wolverines are not crying about the 3-star Michigan kid that didn't get recruited. And I hate to say it like that, but that's where college football is at. And if you're a fan or you're an alum, and you're going to opine over the Badgers not trying to find a diamond in the rough in the state, there's only so much time and resources they can commit. And so I get it. Coaches want to feel important. I think a lot of high school coaches, football and basketball, are in for a rude awakening. They matter less. And I don't think they like that. They all matter less. And I get it. I don't want to matter less. But if I'm Luke Fickell, and they matter in the idea of trying to connect the coaches to the players, but otherwise, how am I, and I don't even know how this works anymore, agents or the actual recruiters, social media, and again, going back to Paul Chryst, you know what Paul Chryst was good at? High school relationships. You know what he was horrendous at? Social media. And you know where you're going to get the national recruits from, and you know where you get all that from? Is throwing them social media love, and then DM them on social media, and finding those athletes, and then you make those connects. And that's how, again, if you want Wisconsin to go back to old Wisconsin football in today's college football landscape is worse than this program. And then you can have all the Wisconsin kids you want, all the cool stories you want. And then what are you going to do when they get paid more to go somewhere else? Like, how do we all respond? And obviously, AJ Story's not a Wisconsin kid, but how do we all respond to that? And again, Chucky's not a Wisconsin kid, and that one's probably more apples to apples, though. How do we all feel when we developed Chucky Hepburn? I was proud of how Badger fans responded to it, but I wonder how they responded if they didn't pull in, if Tonje didn't show up, John Tonje didn't show up. Like, if the team was struggling and Chucky Hepburn's balling out at Louisville, I think you're seeing a little bit uglier side of fans. So, like, my whole point is that you've seen it. You've seen what happened. Chucky was a Badger. And this is basketball.
He still embraces it, too,
right,
even though he moved on to Louisville. He has the tattoos.
But, like, Greg Gard put in all that work to develop him, and then he didn't reap the final reward. If you don't know, Chucky was borderline as good as Tonje was last year. As far as he played in the ACC, was he all ACC? I mean,
first team all ACC, I believe. I think he was Defensive Player of the Year, which is still amazing.
That's what I'm saying.
That's unbelievable.
Like, yeah, that's on Tonje's level. And I'm not saying the Badgers would have won this. I'm just saying that, like, we developed a player, and I'm glad there's no hard feelings because we understand it in basketball. You're going to have to understand in football. What coach wants to do that? Good for Greg Gard that he was the bigger man about it and said, yeah, go get your money. But that's tough. And then you're going to see it. We haven't seen it yet in football, but you might. And then how are you going to feel about it?
I want to go back to, like, the question that you had, too, about, and this isn't us dunking on high school coaches necessarily by any means. It's more of a resetting expectations and more of the bigger picture of where we're at in college athletics and where we're at in the recruiting field. Because, again, it just goes back to it. It's like, unless you are just clear-cut number one recruit across the board in the country. Mm-hmm. Heck, even those guys might not necessarily see some PT. I mean, hey, Dylan Raiola, he's balling out right now in Nebraska. He was the top quarterback recruit in his class, and he wasn't perfect last season, but he definitely showed some flashes, and he's probably only going to get better with Nebraska under Matt Rule. But it's like, again, unless you are that guy consistently, like, you got to – it's resetting the expectations. Again, high school coaches, too, even, like, it's just going to the point of, like, hey, these guys could come in. They could make a difference at some point in the program, but also you got to know and reset a little bit of those expectations. That might not happen on day one.
And this is not, I know you're talking about a guy that's going to grow. And they got him because I think his uncle is a coach with Nebraska.
I believe so, yes. He got in a spat with Fickell last year after the game.
Yeah, because there's...
Yep, that's right. There was like some separation towards the end of the game. That's right.
So Dylan Raiola, who, I mean, look, he will be a great player. Nebraska, who knows what happens if his uncle or someone else gets a different job and he gets more money to go play somewhere else. But 2,819 yards, 13 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. That's not Heisman. That's not all Big Ten. And again, I think he'll develop. I'm not taking a shot at him, but to your point, freshmen coming in are not guaranteed. And Luke Fickell, his job is to win now. And realistically, if I'm a fan, I want a mix of the best of the best high school kids in the state need to be coming to Wisconsin. That's locking down the border. The premier blue chip guys. And that doesn't mean you're chasing stars. If he sees someone that, and oh, by the way, over the last 3 years, the recruiting world would say that Luke Fickell and his staff do a great job of recruiting and recognizing talent. Now, we'll have to see how that all plays out. But if Luke Fickell sees a talent, he's not going to chase the star. If he sees a guy at Lake Mills or wherever who thinks they can come in and play in the first year at some level, contribute in the first year, I think he'd be after him. But for me, success for college, for I would say the Badgers in recruiting will be having a lockdown on the elite players in the state, And then, if you can hit once in a while on a nice walk-on story or a nice like under-recruited player story, fantastic. And that's the most important thing is lock down the state and then try to get 2-year guys if you're going to recruit in the portal. You get a guy to be around for 1 or 2 years. I mean, a Danny O'Neal type. He's got a couple years left. Like that'd be great.
I have a question.
And then, last one was be like, and then a few of your out-of-state freshmen and in-state freshmen, develop them so they actually go pro from Wisconsin.
I have a quick question about walk-on culture because we know how strong of a story walk-on culture is at Wisconsin. Like all the stories, J.J. Watt, Daria Gumbel, the list goes on. But let me ask you: do you think that because if you think about it today with NIL too and transfer all that stuff, do you think the walk-on culture is over? Let me ask you that with Wisconsin or just in general, like a walk-on at Wisconsin being the stars that Wisconsin has developed.
I think it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
I mean, the equivalent I think of is Jack Janicki for basketball.
Sure.
He wasn't a walk-on, but he's an afterthought in recruiting.
Preferred walk-on, I believe, is what.
Okay, so
that's
preferred
what he
walk-on.
was
So
called.
afterthought in recruiting, and someone you don't have to worry about getting poached. And so that's the positive for it is that he's getting some playing time more than he normally would. An afterthought in recruiting. And it's not a world beater, but I think you have to catch the perfect storm. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if there's let's just use, what's the position the Badgers are thin at right now? Running, I mean,
they
have
shored
Dylan
up
Jones
the
and Dupree.
defensive line.
I'd say,
but that's still an area that needs to be proven.
Defensive line, inside linebacker.
Okay,
let's go with.
Let's say there's an inside linebacker in state that happened to be a walk-on this year, and they unfortunately there's an injury or two because I'm talking more depth than anything else. So let's say there's an injury or two, and then that kid pops off. That's it. I think you have to unfortunately catch injuries or have some weird reason that you were a walk-on. I don't know if it was off the field stuff or you played 7-on-7 football. Hey,
8-man football is pretty lit. I'm not gonna lie. If you've seen that out there,
Rashawn Salam. And I think there were still a few high schools in the state. Maybe there are a couple. As of a couple years ago, there were that did not play 11-on-11 football. Mm-hmm. Rashawn Salam in high school did not play 11-on-11 football. So, if that's still happening and you happen to find some diamond in the rough, but realistically, I'd go more of that's the Canadian. You're finding someone who is out of completely out of nowhere, because the walk-on culture. If I'm a good player. And we'll just use Jared Abadaris, who let's say he develops, but he's still not getting the playing time he wants right away. I'm not waiting around for the Badgers. At some point, Jared Abadaris. I'm just going to continue to use his name. Let's say he comes to Wisconsin and realizes very quickly, hey man, I can play. And so if I'm not getting the opportunity that I want here, I can play and someone will pay me to go play. Now I got confidence. Because his first year, he showed flashes. So his first year, he caught 20 passes. And then the next year was 55. The next one was 49. Then he blew up for 78. And he played most of the games in all those years. So let's say after the year he catches 49 passes in 2012, he says, you know what? I'm out. I want to go somewhere else. I want to go somewhere where they're going to feature me as the main guy. And then that's not that walk-on story anymore. So that walk-on story from freshman to 4-year starter or 3-year starter, yeah, I would say that.
I'm not
unicorn.
I'm not saying it's impossible, but unicorn, it's perfect. Lightning in a bottle. That's more of what a walk-on would feel like today, because I feel like if they walked on at Wisconsin first year and hey, somebody from recruiting side sees a lightning in a bottle or more potential, they see the right opportunity, they're in the transfer portal, whatever it is, they could go ball out somewhere else. Again, I don't think that it's impossible to be a star-studded walk-on at Wisconsin. But I think, again, just because of all the extra elements that we're dealing with in college athletics, it's a lot harder to be that story today.
Here's the walk-on story that might still exist. And I can't remember if J.J. Watt actually played any years at Central Michigan, but he signed a scholarship to go play tight end at Central Michigan. So he was a scholarship-worthy athlete. And then he came to Wisconsin, obviously, as a defensive end. And so a lot of times those sort of, again, in today's world, he probably that would be the kind of more walk-on that you could see. If someone had earned a scholarship to a lower school and they're going to transfer to walk-on, but they're truly a scholarship athlete. J.J. Watt is not the walk-on in the way that Dare was or others were, or J.J. was, where you accepted an offer somewhere else, you could have gone and played somewhere different, and then you came here, and I don't know all their stories, but JJ was a little bit more established than a traditional just walk-on, off-the-street sort of player. The Jim Leonards, right? Was he a walk-on, I believe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, like, that sort of thing, like, those were guys who had limited options, and then Wisconsin was the best option based on, family choices, all that kind of stuff. J.J. Watt was viewed well enough to be recruited to Central Michigan and given a scholarship.
The man bulked up too. What was it? He was going to Mickey's Dairy Bar apparently, or something like that too. He was going to the diner across the street from Camp Randall. I don't know if that's the rumor, if that's the story, but that's how he got big too.
I think he
Mickey's
shared
Dairy
that story.
Bar will get you big.
Yeah, I think he shared that story.
Big old plate of pancakes.
We will be joined by Marc VandeWettering here soon, and the last thing I want to get to on the recruiting side of it is, I think for people's just like fandom, I'm not getting caught up at all in the high school recruiting, not one little bit. The time of year, and I'll ask both of you, the time of year that I pay attention to now for recruiting is the portal season. Who's going out and who's coming in, because those are the only guys that I would bet on are going to make an impact the upcoming season.
That's what feels more exciting for me right now too. Is like, again, no offense to the high school, it's still exciting. Like when you get to see like guys do anybody for signing day, where they're headed next. But I think again, just there's no guarantees. Heck, even like with playing time and everything, everybody wants to be on the field, but only like at the end of the day in football, only 22 of them can make it onto the field. At a certain time. So it's like not everybody can make it out there. So like you said, I am more interested. I feel like I'm locked in a little bit more with the transfer portal news. That's like who's heading where. The star quarterback from this team is going to go to this point, and it's like how the heck are they going to fit in with that system? Again, it's not a knock on these high school guys. It's not a knock on these high school players, but we're just in a very different situation now to see like, all right, what's going to happen? Like, again, it's like that's cool that they're going to this school, but like, you kind of think about it. It's like, are they going to stick around at that school? Is there going to be a different opportunity? Is this what's right for them right now? And that's fine if that's what's right for them right now. But, yeah, again, just with where we're at, too, in college sports, nothing is guaranteed. And, heck, even like way back with Sharif Chambliss, it said, too, recruiting is a 24/7, 365 thing, even with the guys in-house.
Yes, and again, it goes back to bandwidth. So, circling it back with all due respect to Coach Huber at Lake Mills or any of these other schools, there's a bandwidth here, and we all can agree. Now, this is weird to say because Northwestern and Minnesota, you make a case as good as Wisconsin last few years, but we're not trying to be the Gophers. We're not trying to be the Wildcats, and maybe this fails, but Luke Fickell was brought here to be Ohio State, to be Michigan, to be those programs. So I get it, but and I can't say this with a straight face because we are peers, but Wisconsin didn't hire Luke Fickell to be peers with Minnesota or Northwestern or to be recruiting the same kid out of high school as Minnesota or Northwestern. Now, have we reached those goals? No. But Luke Fickell was brought here to make Wisconsin Ohio State. And if that's what's going to happen, then that means high school kids outside of the blue chip elite players and a few diamonds in the rough out of the state of Wisconsin aren't going to be recruited. And honestly, whoever the hell the Badgers bring in after that are not going to be successful if they're trying to scour through every roster at university, every roster a high school program has here at Wisconsin.
I will wholeheartedly be a broken record with this and use this word that when Luke Fickell was introduced, it was Chancellor Mnookin, it was Chris McIntosh as well that was backing up. The word that they used was transformative. Transformative was the word when they brought on Luke Fickell. And, hey, like we're still seeing the transformation as it goes, but also a reminder to Badger fans, too. This is a transformation. Like you said, it's not just trying to be about the teams that, okay, we want to be we're going to try to stay next to the Minnesota and Nebraska or whatever it is. No. And it's not even trying to be Ohio State. It's trying to be better than Ohio State. And you know what? Sometimes it's like if you're reaching too high, then it is what it is. I would rather swing for the fences. I would rather go for that. It's not just about, like, again, hey, take the little wins when you can. But at the end of the day, we all know what it is. Let's call a spade a spade. They're trying to be better than Ohio State. Now, how they do that is beyond me. But the goal is be better than Ohio State. Be the top dog. Because if you're not competing to try to be the top dog, then what the heck are you doing right now?
All right, let's hear from Dari Gumbawale, who joined Jim, Matt, and Molly yesterday when I was out, and a little bummed about that because I helped set up the interview, but I wasn't the one that actually got to be a part of it. He's joining because there's Vibes Golf Tournament coming to town here soon. But let's hear Dari Gumbawale on the Badgers' record next season.
All right, so real quick, last question. Way too early Badgers record prediction for next season. 12 games.
Oh, God.
What's the prediction?
Should we read you the schedule? Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay, I'll read it. I got it pulled up.
Okay.
All right, so...
Actually, you know what? Why don't you just say win-loss to each of these?
Okay, yeah, perfect. Miami...
Oh, no, we're not doing it that way. You guys trying to get me canceled from the boys. I'm going to just say next year we'll be bowl eligible. I will say next year we'll be bowl eligible. I feel it. I feel it will be bowl eligible. 6 games. Is that 6? That means 6 games,
That's 6
right?
games. 6 wins, yes. Which is crazy to think about that is an absolute improvement from last season, right? Like, that was obviously that was the biggest story. But, like, that's crazy to think about, especially, like I said before, how difficult their season is. They have a really hard schedule. So I think that's about as max as I would go.
Yeah. Molly's going to get canceled by Badger fans.
But I'm also not a former Badger running back.
Fair enough.
All right, Matt Hamilton, Molly Brown, and Dari Gumbawale there. I've said this before. 6 is, I think, the baseline we need. 7, especially if they look competent in all these 7 games, I feel like that's probably the best we can do. I hate to say it like that, but that kind of could be where we are going to land on that.
But it's just based off of where we are at right now in this time. Again, that's not saying when we say that 6 wins, 7 wins, just to be bowl eligible is the expectation. That is not long term. Right now, that is where we're at in the moment. Wisconsin has lost its bowl streak. It's time to get back into postseason play. This is a crazy tough schedule, don't get me wrong, but also right now when we need to take a step back and realize that just because we're saying right now that 6-7 wins is the expectation for this season, that's not the expectation down the road. I get it, but also, like, look, that's just where we're at the moment. And I think the other side of it too is, again, like, we need to give more patience to Luke Fickell because, again, it's like, well, first off, if you're also calling for his doubt, who is going to be in line? Again, I loved being around. We had some good laughs with Jim Leonard. We had some good laughs with Paul Chris, but also it's like, how can they succeed in this era of college football that has changed so fast within not even 5 years? I haven't even been in Madison for 5 years, and it feels like this is a completely different game all of a sudden. So now how are we going to change? It's like, again, the 6-7 wins for this upcoming season, that is not the long-term expectation. That's this year's right now. Get back to the bowl game. Get back to where you are. And also from the recruitment standpoint, too, this is, even though like not all of Luke Fickell's first-time recruits or his first wave of recruits are all with Wisconsin, this is where his recruits are starting to become a lot more fully developed. They probably had like his first class, the guys that are sticking around with them. They now know who he is under that system. They now know who he is as that, again, trying to figure out like how he wants to develop players in that system. So this is going to be the first time. This is going to be the first time where we really get to see the guys that Luke Fickell recruited and, see where they're at right now.
To that point, one thing, obviously, this guy's a transfer, so he does fall under the Luke Fickell recruiting side of things. But Billy Edwards Jr. statistically was as good as Raiola last year. Now, I'm not saying.
So what you're saying is,
if you wanted some optimism, it's not crazy to think that a healthy season of Billy Edwards Jr. helps you win some of those 50-50 games that are up in the air. But we talk about guys who are developing under Luke Fickell, and I don't know which one of these were technically recruited by Fickell or if they were under Paul Chris. But Vinny Anthony has developed, without a doubt. He has developed into a hell of a football player under Luke Fickell. I think he might be a guy, the size might be the only thing holding him back, but he might be a draftable player. Trechka Kahuna, that is Fickell. Then you look at this offensive line, a lot of these guys, Brunner and Renfro, for sure, are under him. And then you have Tucker Ashcraft. I mean, that's a recruit from Fickell. He's been here. This is his junior season coming in here. You got the quarterback. But then you look at Darian Dupree and Dylan Jones, likely starters this upcoming year.
Those guys are going to be electric.
And those guys are recruits from Fickell. Looking at the defensive side of the ball, I don't know if Forkorian will play. He's still kind of suing to see if he can play. Mm-hmm. Ricardo Hallman, he's developed under Fickell because Fickell's been here. This is going into his third season here. So, like, you get the credit for developing a guy like that. And then you have Tackett Curtis, who I think is a guy that's going to get better. Daryl Peterson, again, a guy who has been here for 2 years. So that falls under the Luke Fickell development side of things here, along with some other players. But so when you look, and then like we don't know what these transfer players will do, but Luke Fickell is developing guys. We're all going to feel different about this program if Darian Dupree and Dylan Jones, heck, if they look like Corey Clement and PJ Hill as far as talent, not the way they play, we're going to feel pretty good. We're going to feel excited. Then you got Cade Giacomelli here as well, also a guy that's been here 3 years going into his third year under Fickell. If Ashcraft looks good, and then obviously if Billy Edwards comes out in place, but if some of these guys, especially Vinny Anthony, let's say Vinny Anthony pops off and gets drafted, all of a sudden now we feel better, right?
Take it for what it's worth too with Will Pauling. I mean, it would be fun. It would have been fun to see like how he played out like this season, or if he stuck around with Wisconsin for his entire career. But like we've said, like commonly on this show, we're never going to dunk on college players. We're never going to. That's not why we bring their names up when they move on to other schools. It's more of like, hey, he spent he balled out in his first season. When I remember when he was coming in, Will's a great guy. He's very humble. He's to himself, but he's a dog too. At the end of the day, when he came from Cincinnati over to Wisconsin. The reason why he asked Luke Fickell, I want to come with you. I want to follow you to Wisconsin. Is there an opportunity for me? He came to Wisconsin. He put in the 2 years and really balled out and proved himself. And now he's playing at Notre Dame. Now he's playing in a team that was playing for the national championship last season. And he's probably going to be a top-tier target. I think, again, it's like, yeah, it sucks that he's not with Wisconsin for the whole ride. It's a slight apples to orange with like the Chucky Hepburn thing. Like he wasn't a full Wisconsin guy. He wasn't, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. He was a guy that stuck with Luke Fickell for all these years. And now, heck, Marcus Freeman, who was a former coordinator at Cincinnati, now he's going over to Marcus Freeman with Notre Dame. So again, just a difference maker from there. Going to your point of like guys that have developed over time.
Just pulling back the curtain here for a minute here. Riley Yauk, where are we at with our guest, Marc VandeWettering?
So Mark is currently on. He logged on to the calls.
Yep.
And unfortunately, there are technical difficulties where the camera is not coming through.
Okay.
And there's no audio, so we might have to do a phone interview. Well,
we could do one of two things. Yes. We also could just have a guest lined up for next week, but we could have Mark and our guest for next week on just do a double up. That might make more sense because I think we're running tight on time, and I'd like to have Mark on video.
Yeah.
So maybe we shoot that out ahead of time. Sorry for troubleshooting that on the air here.
Yeah.
But we do appreciate it.
But
we appreciate the
patience. We will then, I guess, officially start our series featuring two important things this month, Pride Month, and it is also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And Marc VandeWettering will be on next week to talk about it. Along with, we do
have So go ahead, very excited. Yeah, DJ Shauna Nichols, former Badger basketball player. I've also, for those of you who are big Milwaukee Bucks fans too, she is the Bucks arena DJ at the Fiserv Forum. Shauna's great. The energy that she brings, she DJs all across the Milwaukee area. Used to do a lot of Badger games too. She wanted to be a part of this too. As soon as we sent out that invite, she's DJing Pride Fest for anyone that's going to be out there this weekend. So again, super excited that she's also going to be a part of this lineup too next week. So should be a really cool jump around episode that we got lined up.
It will be just to make sure that unfortunately we won't have our guest on today, but I want to remind everyone nothing beats a great night's sleep on a Beauty Rest from Steinhafels. Right now you can get a free foundation when you buy a Beauty Rest Black or World Class mattress. Queen mattresses start at just $30 per month when you use your Steinhafels 60 months financing. And with Steinhafels 110% price guarantee, 120-night sleep guarantee, and free delivery, you can't make a mistake. Don't overpay for a good night's sleep. Shop Steinhafels in-store or online. So next week's guest, DJ Shauna and Marc VandeWettering, will be brought to you by Steinhafels. This has been The Jump Around 3.0.